Evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Licence and Appeals Committee. For the benefit of those watching on YouTube channel, members of the committee are present in the chamber, and these members will be voting on proposals this evening. Other members of the council who are also represented in the chamber or participating via M&S can take part in any discussions, ask questions, but cannot vote. Your attention is drawn to Agenda 1, which sets out the guidelines on how meetings will be conducted. Before we start with the formal business, we will confirm attendance of voting members by doing a roll call.
Thank you. This is in alphabetical order. So if you can just confirm you're present when I call your name. Councillor Banks.
Present.
We've had apologies from Councillor Benison. And we've had apologies from Councillor Brown. Councillor Coffin.
Present.
Councillor Cope.
Present.
We've had apologies from Councillor Kears. Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor Oliver. Councillor Roud.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Present.
Councillor Thornywell. Not present. Councillor Tunstall.
Present.
Councillor Williams. I can confirm, Chair, you have 9 voting members of the committee present this evening.
Members in the chamber to be asked if there's any declarations of interest. Right, item 4, minutes. Notes of the meeting held on the 25th of March 2025, attachment at pages 11 or 12 are confirmed as correct. Agreed. To agree the minutes of the meeting of the Licence and Appeals Committee sitting as a panel on the 14th of March, 24th of March, 28th of April as attached in pages 13 to 24. If there's no questions, please. Do we agree?
Members got any questions or is that agreed?
Or any questions? Item 6, pages 25 to 50, review of the Hackney carriage fares. A report now from the Head of Licensing, Anthony Garnett. The recommendations at 3.1 and 3.2, pages 25 of the agenda pack, asks members to review the current maximum fares that may be charged, and it is recommended that the changes take effect from the 1st of August 2025 to allow for a statutory public consultation. I'll pass over to Anthony.
Thank you, Chair. The report sets out the options for you as the Licensing and Appeals Committee and invites members to review the current maximum fares that are charged following a petition that was received from licensed drivers. The Council is empowered to set maximum Hackney carriage fares, and this is delegated to you as this committee. The private hire monthly is our benchmark for 2 miles that we and all licensing authorities monitor. And currently, the 2 mile rate for Tunbridge and Morning is £8.40. And on the national benchmarking, at the time of writing the paper, we were 44 in the list. Today, we are 46. What I've outlined, Chair, is certain references which I'll make reference to. The consultation with the trade, we had 66 licensed members submit a petition. That petition is shown at Annex 1. And when we ever get a petition from taxi drivers regarding a proposed fare increase, we always use an electronic Teams survey so that we can validate the thinking not only on the rank, but of all Hackney carriage drivers, dual drivers who can drive Hackney and private hire, and Hackney carriage proprietors who run the vehicles. So out of the 468 that we sent out, we had 108 replies, which is about 23%. Of those replies, 78 were yes, 4 were no, and we had a lot of voids at 26. And we believe the reason we had a lot of voids was the first question on the survey was, are you a private hire driver? Now, those who were dual probably said yes, and then they were taken to the end of the survey. And so they had to start again on a fresh entry. So that's why we have got the 78 in favour, 4 no, and 26 void. For members' information, we put the market indicators down, the petrol and gasoline prices, and the consumer price index on page 27. For further reference on page 28, we put the current comparisons with other Kent authorities. At the time of writing the paper, Sevenoaks was 1, Tunbridge Wells was 2nd, and we were 3rd. That order still's maintained, except for Sevenoaks has dropped from 27 to 29 in the table, and Tunbridge Wells has dropped from 32 to 34, and ourselves have dropped from 44 to 46. The National League table, the top 5, just for your reference, it will be no surprise to you, the 2 airports are at the top, Heathrow and Luton. Transport for London is 3rd, and then we have Epsom and All and Guildford as the next 2. As far as the proposal is concerned, that is before you to consider, is made up of the information that's been received by various taxi drivers. So the information on page 29 is simply raw data as it's come off the survey. And my apologies, so that is the actual proposal of the current and the proposal. The actual information that came in from the taxi drivers is on pages 43, 44, 45, 46. And that is the raw data as it was taken down off the information that was given. So what Katie, I and the team have done is said, right, what are drivers looking for? And so we have, rather than giving you a blank piece of paper, said this is the proposal that has come out of the petition and what the drivers have put on the survey. So the key changes are the flag, which is the first indication the public see. Public see is going to £5. And that's for up to 0.66 of a mile and 3,520 feet. And then anyone who's taken a taxi will know that depending on then the distance that you take, it's in 20 pence increments, and it has to be in 20 pence increments for the calibration of the meter. So the 1 mile proposal is moving from £5.40 to £6, and the 2 mile from £8.40 to £9. And then we have waiting time with a slight adjustment on seconds, and those are the current charges on column 1 and column 2. So there are certain points that we've taken out for members to consider. If members were minded to go with that proposal, just to give you an idea where we would fit in, we would still be up at 19 on the table with Cheltenham, Edinburgh, Mid Sussex and Reading. Chair, I will stop at that point, but if there's any questions or points of clarification from you or any member, we'll be very happy to answer them.
Councillor Coffin.
Thank you very much. It's actually just a clarification, please, Anthony, on the current and proposal table. You've got the each and subsequent 155 yards. Next column is each and subsequent 125 yards, and the next one is each and subsequent 352 feet. Now, rather than working out what 375 feet less 352 is, what's the percentage increase on that? Or can you give me some figures that are comparable? Thank you.
Yeah, we can do a percentage calculation, and I've got them here for you on the sheet that we do. So the flag at there's one here. We're looking at an increase from 560 to 660.
Sorry, Anthony, it was on the 20 pence fee.
My apologies. We can work that out for you. I haven't got that percentage to hand here, but the main percentage is 7.14 for the first mile, and it will be the same for the second mile.
Councillor Cope.
Thank you, Chair. I was quite interested that some of the drivers were saying no, that they were not in favour of the fare increase, and I just because I can understand why people would want there to be a fare increase, I'm just interested whether we had any insight into why a number did not, just so I feel I've got a more holistic picture. Thank you.
Those that said no did not leave any comments, to be honest with you. They are clearly in the minority, but I cannot give you that information.
I can't, just to confirm that there's no obligation to put one's prices up, is there? I believe that's correct, that people can, as long as they're not charging more, they can charge less if they want to. So even if they don't want the increase, there's no onus on them to increase their fares.
You're absolutely correct. What you're setting tonight is the maximum that can be charged. And we have seen in the past where not everyone puts their fare chart up immediately following a decision by you as members. But you're absolutely right. It is the maximum fares they can charge that you're setting tonight.
Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start by checking some understanding. I think what we've got on the table on page 29 is a summary of what the preferences would be from a driver's perspective. And I mean, naturally, one assumes that it's not very common for the drivers to come back and say that they want the prices to stay the same or even go down. So, and I understand that they're suggesting that they should go up, but some of the increases do seem rather significant to me. For example, the flag increasing from £5 to from £4, and along the lines that Councillor Coffin was suggested, I'd like to understand what that percentage represents so that we can get an understanding whether or not it's reasonable, and also from the user's point of view as to how onerous they're going to find it. Because I do worry about the fact that the service becomes expensive, and also there is a point of diminishing return, such that people are wary about using the taxis and they actually get less business. But I thought normal practice was that you gave us a range of increases, and then we understand the impact and the tariff, and then we look at which we think is reasonable. We seem, and I may have read this wrong, but we've not got a summary here of everything, that a wish list from the driver's perspective, which seems a difficult point to judge from, and also statistically, same point that Councillor Coffin was making. What percentage increase does each of the component mean? Thank you.
Chair, if I can just say a few words of observation. One is, the last time you as members set the fees in 2022, we went to number 4 in the table nationally. And within weeks, we started dropping down the table rapidly because everyone was following us and monitoring what was happening. It is a fact that, you know, there are costs that have gone up. What we have tried to do here in good faith is to simply take what the majority view was, to give some sort of comparison for you to judge. And if members want additional flag rates modelled, we can do those live for you here. But I would therefore just be giving you a huge number of considerations. I think from us, it will be useful to understand where that proposal is from the drivers. Is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Is it, so we can then start to fine tune that. But we have not given a huge table for consideration.
Councillor Cope.
Thank you. And just to build on Councillor King's point, I do know that obviously costs have increased for drivers, but costs have increased for people living in Tunbridge and Morling as well. And I know, for instance, there are people living in North Tunbridge who don't have good access to bus fares, elderly people trying to access shops. And I just would not want them to become isolated because the increase is too steep. So I would also like us to think really carefully about balancing the needs of the taxi drivers and balancing creating, allowing them to still have a pool of people who are going to be able to afford to use taxis. And I'm just really aware of people not on bus routes who might be priced out of getting into town, for instance, and doing their shopping or going to medical appointments. So I would like us to think really carefully about what the best route forward is. Thank you.
Councillor Tunstall.
Thank you, Chair. There is a balance that needs to be made, I think, between the wishes of the drivers and the clients. But I am worried about late night increases and the effect it might have on single women taking cabs at that time of night. If we go to the full £5 and all the other increases, that makes it very expensive, and it would, I think, affect the safety of women late at night. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's important that drivers, taxi drivers, are suffering cost of living problems just the same as the rest of us. But I agree with what Councillor King said, that some of these increases seem a bit heavy, and Councillor Cope looked at it from the other side, that the increase would hit the elderly and the less well off. And I would rather see a balance, some middle ground. So the drivers get an increase that keeps them working, but it doesn't price them out of the market. Thank you.
Councillor Cope.
Sorry, just one last thing on this. I do also feel that it's quite a steep increase at a time when the reputation of the taxi drivers in Tunbridge and Morling is not at necessarily its best. And it's finding that balance between, yes, they need to have a sustainable business, a financially sustainable business, but they need to have clients who have confidence in them. And I think asking to put the prices up this much at a time when a lot of people don't have that confidence is perhaps quite a big ask. And I wonder whether we could perhaps look at a more moderate proposal. Thank you.
So I get the general from members that we should defer this so we can get some more moderate prices. Get a different model to like the flat rate model, so it helps us more to understand it better. I completely see where you're coming from, Councillor Cope.
Officers are here to take members' direction, clearly. I would only emphasise two points: that we would have to have a word with Democratic Services to see if there could be another meeting before the September meeting, because I'm just conscious that, taking different councillors' points here, there are cost pressures on both sides, and there obviously an agreement is keen to be sought. So as officers, we will clearly take direction on this. We do some further modelling. I think it may not be useful to do it live now tonight because they'll just be going through so many different reiterations. And I think taking away, Chair, the thoughts of the members here tonight.
Councillor Coffin.
Thank you. I'm actually quite keen that we make a decision tonight for those reasons that the taxi drivers have asked for this. We should be able to make a decision and take into account what's been said. Of course, what we're proposed here is the maximum charge. And just listening to my colleagues, now maybe if the taxi business was more profitable within Tonbridge and Malling, we might get some better quality drivers and operators because they might be more keen to come and work within Tonbridge and Malling. And again, it's a market thing, isn't it? So that if there is a large number of taxis and they're all fighting for the business, there is a likelihood that the price will not go to its maximum. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about the free market on that. The only one that sticks in my mind particularly is, it comes back to the question starting with, it's the 20p rates. And just looking at the waiting time, for example, that appears to be a 20% hike, although it might be 20% reduction, whichever way you look at it, because we're going for 20p for 30 seconds to 20p for 24 seconds, which is 80% of 30. So I think generally speaking, I'm reasonably content that because it's a maximum, I would quite like to see this voted through tonight. And maybe there might be a proposal to put the flag at, say, 475 or something. But I'm quite keen that we give certainty to the drivers. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Just thinking that we are under time pressure, as Anthony said, and I'm wondering whether it's feasible if we decided here tonight that across the board increase of 50% and delegate the officers to work out the pounds and pennies that involves. Are we allowed to do that? Thank you.
I'm just a little nervous that 50% will be a huge increase. What I would propose, Chair, is I can just put the spreadsheet up and just do two changes to give you an indication of what your proposal would mean in reality to the 1 and 2 mile checks when you finish the discussion, members. Chairman, I'm quite happy to do that.
Councillor Bank.
Thank you. I think what Michael was saying, I think we were talking about, I think it's to be near the top of the country in taxi fares. I think we have been in the past. Is a bit off, and where we are now is where we are. But coming back to Mike's point, I think what he was saying was when he talked about 50%, I think he was talking about splitting the difference. And I wondered whether that would be a good way where we could make a decision this evening based on that, and whether that would give both parties what they need.
Thank you, Chair. I think I slightly understand now. I think what we're saying is, why not call it £4.50 instead of £5, which is a 50 pence increase on the rate. I'm not a great lover of deferring anything because I think it's nice to get business done. But I don't really understand the science of what we're trying to decide on, really, other than the fact that the drivers have put forward a set of expectations. So I would like to understand, taking into account RPI and normal and where expenses have increased and what have you, that what some list of increases might be, so that we can actually make from a set of options. Whereas I feel that, you know, just making this, looking at it, £4 to £5. I mean, who wouldn't want to say, why not call it a fiver? I mean, it's a 25% increase, you know, on the original figure. And as Councillor Coffin said, the 20 pence rate, you've got to be pretty cute on mental arithmetic to work out what actually that represents. But I think it's a fairly large percentage increase. So I don't think I feel comfortable that I understand what the numbers mean in terms of where we are now and where we're going to, and whether it's reasonable or whether it isn't. But I understand it's a maximum, but I don't really know what that means other than the fact they can't charge more. How common is it that people charge less? I don't know how the market actually operates. Presumably people do tend to go for that maximum figure. So I just don't feel in a position personally to understand what it is and why we're making a judgment on these particular numbers. Thank you.
Anthony?
Yes, Chair. So if we look at £5 flag as it is now, and if we change that to £4.50, therefore your 1 mile fare goes to £5.50, and your 2 mile fare goes to £8.50. Compare that with at the moment. That is a decrease on the 2 miles fare at that 20p rate. So, taking Councillor Coffin's point on the 20p's, yeah. So the £325. Chair, the concern is that we'd have to just play around with the figures here, give you an indication. I didn't change the 20p's, but if I started to bring that down, I am very nervous about proposing these going forward. You're starting to potentially the levels up. So as we bring it down to 175 feet, it's at this stage, it's very difficult to determine without all the other factors to get a realistic. I can change the flag very easily for you and to give you an indication of what that does, and we can change the feet per 20p. And the waiting time is obviously calibrated on the meter, not on these figures here. So I'll take your guidance on. I'm quite happy to share the screen and show you different examples. It's entirely up to you, members.
If members want to sit on the screen to understand it more.
Bring that up to 100%. So I'll talk you through it here. I'm just going to zoom it up a little bit more just so that you let's custom it up to T. Members see that? Right. So currently we have the proposal here. So we have at the moment feet, and we have the flag at £5. The flag at £5, let me just run through just for clarity for everyone. We have then the number of feet, 352 feet, each subsequent distance of that's 20 pence for every. We then look at the mile, obviously of the 520 feet, and we have the different elements. We have the flag element, 3520 feet at £5, and then we have a subtotal, which is half a mile. So we have the difference, the number of subsequent feet units, which is 5. So there's 520p's. In this case, it's very clean. So that gives us the £6 per mile. The national flag, which we're obviously looking at, is £9. Now, as we make changes on this, that 1 mile and 2 mile will change. So if I'm looking at the £5 changing to £4.50, to give you your first example, we now have a 1 mile at £5.50, and we have a 2 mile at £8.50. Bear in mind, at this point, I have not done any changes in the feet, 20 pence. You can see how we start to. So, yes, it will come down, and when you start to reduce the flag this rate, you're actually starting to change the 1 mile. So you actually got a reduction on the first mile and only an increase of 1.19% on the second. So I think it's important for members to understand that obviously whatever you propose, if we're going to propose tonight, the drivers have an option. Add to the next. So if you wanted to, 475, I'm just giving you some examples here because otherwise, you know, that means that at 575, you have a 2.68% on 1 mile, 4.7%. 2 mile. So the 2 mile goes to 875 rather than £9. Again, I have not done any alteration on the feet, but it's here. So again, you might want to increase the, you know, the only challenge doing it this way is I wanted to show the mechanics, but of course it's not a, it doesn't give you the time to do the science behind this because we can quite easily change footage point, and it's, I think at the end of the day, perhaps if I turn the question round, is what sort of percentage increase are you comfortable? And then we can perhaps do some calculations.
Could you put it back to £5 again, please, Anthony? So what we're saying at £5 on a 2 mile, it's a 7.14% increase, and at 475 it was a 4.15, I think. Okay, I think that table is quite helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Coffin.
Thank you. I think I just found out a little bit more as well, because looking at the current £4, that's for half a mile, as I read this column, whereas the £5 actually gives you 2/3 of a mile. So I'm presuming that it's sort of apples and pears at the moment, but we're getting there. Forgive me, when was the last time the taxi fares were increased? 22. So there's been
July.
3 years of inflation to go into it. So that probably accounts for the 7%, one assumes. Okay, thank you. Let me ponder more. Thank you.
Councillor Cope.
I'm sorry, this might be an unreasonable ask. Do we know what percentage of journeys are 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles? Sorry if that's, and I totally understand if you do not have that information.
That same question was asked at the last time that you reviewed fares. Chair, with your permission, may I refer to a member of the public who runs one of the biggest firms in Tunbridge? I think it's very high for short fares.
Yeah. Yes, you can. Sorry. Would you better use one of their microphones? Just press the red button, please. Bottom. That's it.
That one. Is that it? Have I got it? Is that
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, did everyone hear what I'd said before? Right. So, yeah, so we were prepared to sort of drop the weekend surcharge so that we can make it a much more understandable fare. And you'll see from that it comes out at £3 a mile, which, bear in mind, a lot of the problems on the rank are to do with people overcharging. The general public don't understand how much a fare should be. If they know the mileage where they're going, multiply it by 3, they will very quickly know they're being overcharged. The other thing is that obviously it's over 3 years since we last had an increase. We've had some horrendous inflation in that time. Nothing's gone back down. Okay, inflation might have gone down a bit, but we've had to swallow those increases for the last 3 years. I personally don't think 7% is particularly unfair when you spread it over a 3-year period. If you've got any questions, oh, sorry, one of the questions was what percentage of journeys? The average rank journey, when I last checked it on our system about 3 months ago, was about £12. Our average private hire journey, so pre-booked, around £18. So the ones you're interested in is the average rank journey, about £12. So you're looking on the old fares of around 3 miles. That'd be about right. Do you have any other questions? I'm quite happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Would you like to, Councillor Cope?
Thank you. I am just concerned that the shorter, like between 1 and 4 mile journeys, are the ones that some of our most vulnerable people in Tunbridge are taking. That would be from North Tunbridge into the centre of town. And these are people who are relying on it as their only way to get around. I do feel that those shorter journeys, it is a massive increase for people with not much money. And I do understand that the drivers need to make a living, but I fear that very few of them don't charge the maximum, and we will be making them inaccessible to quite a large amount of people with a just over 7% increase. Thank you.
Denise, would you like to reply?
Again, I think members have got the balance of costs and inflation on both sides, whether it be a taxi driver or a member of the public to consider. And I think that's really very much for yourselves to discuss.
Councillor King?
Thank you. I'd like to say that having seen that chart, and I sort of recollect last time you doing exactly that, Anthony, and that was really helpful. And I'd like to thank Councillor Coffin for reminding me that it's 3 years since the last increase. So I now see this in a more reasonable light based on the fact I understand the data a bit better. So I'm more content. Thank you.
Thank you. In the light of all that, I'd like to propose that the increases as seen on the paper be adopted on the basis, actually, that it'll keep our taxi drivers in work, and therefore the vulnerable people who need a lift should be able to find easy pickings at the taxi rank. Thank you. I don't know if I have a seconder.
A seconder? So should we go to a vote then? A show of hands. Of hands.
All those against?
Thank you.
Carried.
Item 7, spike in awareness, asking for Angela. The report now to be presented by Anthony.
In agreement with the chair, I would normally take members through the entire paper, but it's important to note the background that Councillor Anna Cope, a member for Cage Green, and Angel Ward, in conjunction with the then chair, Councillor Brown, the chair of Licensing and Appeals, and Councillor Kears, cabinet members of Community Services, wanted discussion on the scheme, asked Angela. What I have done is just put some background information in here for members to consider with the relevant annexes. But as discussed with you, Chair, I'm actually going to hand over through you to Councillor to present an introduction of this discussion.
Councillor Cope, if you don't mind being chair, if I could just say a few words first. As chair, can I firstly say I'm in full support of this agenda. As a father of 2 daughters, there's always been a concern when they were out, and I'm sure a lot of the committee can relate to this. Secondly, can I request that this subject is not for political scoring, as we realise how important this is to us whole, the committee. So, Councillor Cope.
Thank you, Chair, for those words, because I really want this to be a cross-party initiative about keeping people safe, which is not a political point of view. And thank you again to Anthony for all his support and work on this. I really, really appreciate it. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Ask for Angela scheme is named after a woman called Angela who died through violence in 2012, and a charity was set up in her name. It's for the charity works in conjunction with local police services and bars and clubs and pubs, running the scheme called Ask for Angela. So if anyone, it is mostly women, but it is not only for women, feel that their drink might have been spiked, that if someone is harassing them, they feel unsafe, they've turned up to meet someone who turns out to be somebody different, and they need help in that situation, they can go to the bar and say, "Is Angela here?" And the staff will know that they're in difficulties. The problem with the scheme is that pubs and bars have the poster in the toilets saying, "If you're in difficulties, ask for Angela." But the BBC conducted research and found sort of 80% of premises who had the poster up hadn't trained their staff. So people were asking subtly for help and no help was forthcoming. And what I would like to see happen is that when premises are having their license renewed or a new premises is opening and applying for a license, that part of getting that license is ensuring that all their staff are trained, because it's a foundation of a good night out is that people feel safe. I want there to be a vibrant pub and bar scene across Tunbridge and Morling, but I also work with teenagers who are just turning 18, and I hear horror stories. And I think if we can take a really simple action that will help keep more people safe, then it's absolutely worth us doing. I've spoken to pub owners in Tunbridge. Some of them are sort of astonished that it's not already required. One of the landlords said he thinks it's really empowering for staff to be trained and made into experts, and that it's good for their business that people feel safe there. Richard at Tunbridge Old Fire Station said it's so important that we provide training like this, that he's offered his premises for training sessions to take place. So I think it is in the interests of bars and pubs that people feel safe in them. They know that this scheme is there and that it works. I think their staff members will feel empowered on how to act in these situations. We have the support of the police locally. The Ask for Angela scheme is something that they are in favour of. And I think that everybody in this room is on the side of keeping people safe. It's not a political issue. It's a safety and well-being issue. So I would love to have your support. Thank you.
Andy.
Yes, the thoughts I just wanted to add to before members debate is several points. We will obviously produce the posters both in hard copy, A4 or A3. Premises will be allowed to download the poster if they want one, and we will use the antisocial behaviour team when they're visiting all licensed premises to ensure that the staff in those premises know what Ask Angela is. And in discussion with the taxi trade, we will also start to introduce the concept of Ask Angela to every licensed driver in the borough, which is 624 of them, both private hire and Hackney. So I just wanted to put that as a context for you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think this is a very important issue, and I think it should definitely be part of a licensing policy. I have 2 points to make. One is to pick up on Councillor Cope's point about the posters being put up in the toilets and not being visible. Can we include visibility of the posters as part of the policy? And the second thing is there's too many shoulds in this safety measures. Can we change the shoulds to will? Thank you.
Anthony, do you want to reply to?
Yeah, yes, certainly. I will take the full complement of members' feedback, and together with Katie, Senior Licensing Officer, we will make the changes that are proposed in Annex 1 to go into the Statement of Licensing Policy.
Councillor Banks.
Chair, I'd just like to add really that this really is a cross-party issue. I don't think there was any dissent among any of the councillors. My one fear about this, when I was aware when it first started, is that would anyone know what was being indicated when asking for Angela? And I suppose that was my fear. But I do think it's probably a duty for all councillors that when they go to bars and pubs to test it. And that's certainly what I'm going to do, because I think it is such a good thing, and it has my absolute full support.
Thank you. I can't thank Councillor Cope for bringing this up. Why we didn't have it in front of this committee years ago. Really pleased that you have brought it up. Councillor Coffin.
Thank you. Agree with everything that's been said so far. I'm just looking now at the proposed text for the inclusion in the Tunbridge Morning Statement of Licensing. And I just wonder if that could be a little stronger, actually. For example, the last paragraph, when a trained member of staff hears the code phrase, they should understand the person needs support. Well, maybe it's needs support and because they are vulnerable, and really reinforce that point. It just feels that we could be a little stronger in that paragraph. And if there's some clever wordsmiths in this forum, perhaps they could propose them. But everything else, no, it's absolutely a fantastic scheme.
And Anthony.
Same again, Chair. Of course, we will look at that and make that wording stronger and review where else we can use that. Points taken aboard.
Anybody else? No? Right, so the recommendation is that the draft text shown in Annex 1 be approved to be included in the Statement of the Licensing Policy 2025 to 2030. Second, the poster at Annex 2 be distributed to holders of premises licences and club members' certificates under Licensing Act of 2023. Yes, I'd like to propose that. Do I have a seconder? Answer. Can we agree? Thank you. Yes.
I've just noticed there's a spelling mistake in there, although the argument might be for some people. It says on the last line, actually, they should be altering the police. I think they should be alerting the police.
Guilty.
Right, item 8, Statement of the Licence Policy 2025 to 2030 consultation. The report is to be presented by Anthony.
Members will now understand why we put the Statement of Licensing Policy in agreement with Democratic Services as third on the agenda after the discussion of Asked Angela. The Statement of Licensing Policy 2025-2030 is before you, and this came to you on the Licensing Committee on the 25th of March. We've been through a public consultation from the 1st of April 2025 until the 25th of May 2025, and the responses are before you tonight. Unfortunately, we did not have responses from any councillor or members of the public. The only response we had was in conjunction with the previous item of Asked Angela from the licensing team that we thought it was fitting to put that in. And if members are willing to accept that, we will make the same changes that were recommended in the last discussion, so that the copy of response will go into the policy and be amended accordingly. It's disappointing, Chair. It's something that we have always struggled with on our consultations in licensing, and we will take the feedback from tonight, and that we have the lack of feedback that we received, and look at how we do our consultations in licensing going forward. It is our mainstay. It is the main paper. It was put together in Kent by the licensing steering group, which I was part of then in the early 2000s, and everybody has not deviated that much, to be honest, from the main policy, so it does work. But it nevertheless is disappointing, but we have to accept what is before us tonight. So, Chair, in summary, I leave it with you with the recommendation that is on page 59. And as always, very happy to answer any questions, concerns that members may.
It's not a question, Chair. It's just an observation. If you don't get any response to a consultation, it means you must be doing it right.
Anyone else? No? Recommendations then at 3.1, page 59 of the agenda pack seeks approval of the draft statement of consultation attached in Annex 1 be commended to the Council for adoption. Do we agree? Agreed. Yeah. Learning. Urgent items. Alison.
No urgent item.
Exclusion of the press and public. Any other urgent items? Martin.
It may not be an urgent item, but I have one question for Anthony. Is this to be your last licensing meeting? And from that smile, I think the answer is yes. Anthony, you wanted to join quietly and leave quietly. Well, I'm sorry, but I will keep this fairly short. Your attention to detail and method of working has completely revolutionized both the licensing, CDRP, and also the work you do at the castle. It's been incredible, and we all know that if you want something done extremely well, you ask Anthony. So thank you for that particular trait that you have, and that trait that you'll be leaving with your team and those that have worked around you. I do know that there will be succession planning, which has either been done already or you'll be working on it in order to make sure that your successful work continues through this authority. So on behalf of, I think, everybody here, thank you so much for your time and effort, and we'll be sad to see you to go, but I do know we've got a few months before you actually leave us. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
I just wanted to echo everything Martin said, and also to thank Anthony for the time he puts in to helping members with the issues we have in our wards. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to say, as everyone knows, this is my first meeting, and Andy was very helpful, makes you feel at home and all that. And the years I've known Andy, he's been exceptional. And I wish him very well for it. Councillor Cope.
And yeah, I know that everyone, every single Green councillor has always appreciated the support you've given, and particularly I've come to you with problems saying, how are we going to solve this? And you have always been so positive and helpful and focused on finding solutions. It's been wonderful, and you will be absolutely devastatingly sadly missed. Thank you.
Chair, just simply say I was going to just mention it after the YouTube had closed. So thank you. Thank you for ruining that strategy. It's been a pleasure, and I just want to say, members past and present, thank you so much for your support and understanding you've given me and you will give the team. And as Councillor Coffin has said, succession planning is being finalised at the moment. And because my retirement date is the 31st of August, it was going to be 10th of February, but it's now 31st of August. It just the way the calendar runs, this is the last scheduled Licensing and Appeals Committee. Thank you very much indeed, members.
So the time is 8:27 and I close this meeting. Thank you.